All right, everybody. You know, I feel a little bit like I'm having a deja vu. Yeah, took a little bit, but happy to hear that. All right, 8 gems on Nuxt. It was very difficult to pick 8 things that make this framework all amazing. And we start with this. You can see it's empty. There is nothing. And once there was Nuxt.js. Who here, by the way, is a fan of Nuxt.js? Can you raise your hands? Oh, like 90% of the people. That's great. The other 10%, let's talk outside. Daniel, I can convince you. No worries. So that's fine. But did you know that some of you today used a Nuxt application already? I'm not talking about fixing your bugs while listening to the talks, right? I'll show you. This wonderful application where you submitted some questions for example, the panel tomorrow. Do that. There will be QR code up after the talk again. And also for Avenue, it's called Blido, a better Slido. Great name. And it's built with Nuxt. Yeah, you see that up here? It says that Nuxt.js version 3.11, and it's free to use. So we thought when we thought about how to get the questions, brainstormed a little bit and thought, hey, why not use this amazing Nuxt application? So yeah, you already used Nuxt.js today without knowing it, and probably also in other scenarios, because there's so many websites built with Nuxt, you might not even know that they actually are. Nevertheless, let's talk about the gems of Nuxt, the 8 features every developer should know, not even every Nuxt developer, also every Vue developer, because maybe you want to switch over if that fits to your use case, right? Before, of course, a little bit about me. Thanks a lot, Daniel, for the wonderful introduction. I don't have to say that much anymore. So yeah, I am Alex. I am web engineering consultant by day. So besides the whole content creation part and a little bit of open source, of course, somehow people have to earn money, apparently. Yeah, fair. So I help companies with their Vue and Nuxt applications, architectures, issues, performance, and so on, so on. And yes, that's more work than just sending a video every now and then, like, hey, look, there. It's a bit more. You have to figure out where the problems are. Anyway, yeah, I'm also giving workshops, of course, podcast host, and the Deja Vu podcast, if you don't listen to it yet in our interview, and I mean, most of you are. I remember in the morning there were 2 people who were not that convinced. Maybe the 2 of you are convinced now. Give it a listen for sure. I'm on the Nuxt team as well, and yeah, I do a little bit of content creation. I bring out, well, 1 video a week every Friday. So yeah, this Friday will be another video. Even though I'm here and then in Japan, there will be things. So definitely follow along. Every now and then I do some shit posts on Twitter, and every now and then I do also live stream, and I have a website and GitHub and so on. So and I also have a cat, right? Yeah, of course, that's not my cat, it's Grumpy Cat, rest in peace, but still, no, I don't have any cat. Probably more of a dog person, but I had a cat when I was younger, maybe that counts. Nevertheless, when we talk about Nuxt, let's address the elephant in the room, Nuxt 4. When I submitted this talk to this wonderful conference earlier this year, I had my abstract all laid out, and I thought, you know what, this will be so amazing. I start with, I quote, Nuxt 4 is out and it's packed with changes. Yeah. Drum roll, please, everybody. And yeah, it's not out. You can stop. Fine, thanks. Thank you. The release is still pending. It will come. This is something I can promise. I can promise that it will come. I don't tell when. But the good thing is you can already opt into the breaking changes today, into the changes. Maybe some of them I'll show you. It's very easy. You have your Nuxt config, right? You have a somewhat updated Nuxt version. And what you can do is just this. Future, yeah? We move into the future, back into the future, commit to the version 4, set it up. Shouldn't be a string number, please, very important. And then you're good. And then all the breaking changes are there. You can apply the things. There's a lovely migration guide where you can go through and say, OK, does everything still work? Let's apply the new folder structure, and so on and so on. And if you think, oh yeah, heard a lot about Nuxt today, why not trying out that new thing? Then you can even do the following. You can write npx nuxi init, so far nothing new, creating Nuxt application, -t. Anyone knows what -t stands for? Say it. Type, almost. Anyone else? Template, yeah, a few people, exactly, template. We used the v4 compatibility template, and we started a no project with Nuxt 4, breaking changes. It's a new thing all there. And that also comes with this lovely gem. You should all know that because eventually your company in 2 years will migrate to Nuxt 4, not because Nuxt 4 takes that long, but maybe the migration process. I'm just kidding. It will be very fast when you're out there, and there will be new folder structure, because think of this. Maybe your Nuxt projects look a little bit like that right now, right? We don't have to go through all of that. But there are some things that clearly belong to like your Nuxt applications, and we have this server folder, right? And there we have a few things like public, maybe like modules and layers that might be not related at all. Also, you don't need all of these folders, of course, but maybe you have them. And the new folder structure looks a bit like this. Magic. So let's do it again. Like this. We just have this wonderful app folder, and yes, the naming for that wasn't that easy. There were lots of suggestions, and app is where we landed. And yes, you can have an app.view in your app folder. It's app/app.view. I'm not kidding, and that's fine. So now you might wonder, okay, why do we do this? Why do we have to put all of that in? Yes, better performance because of the file watchers, and also it's a bit better in terms of a mental model. Because if you think about it, let's just collapse all these. Okay, you know where Nuxt and Vue-related stuff is in app. You have your server-related parts for like your API routes, your middleware, your plugins, everything's more like Nitro-related. And you don't import a Pinia store in the server folder. You don't import a Vue component in your server folder. And the other way around, you don't use necessarily H3 helpers in your app folder. So it's also easier, also type-wise, auto-import-wise, to separate them. And of course, public, for example, is something that's not belonging to either side, it's just there. Same for layers, and so on and so on. And there's one more thing. There's one more thing that is coming, and it's this. Wow, one more line, amazing. Just do it again for the nice animation based on SlideF and cheeky magic move. A shared folder, because if you start now, okay, look, we have our app, then we have our Nuxt-rated stuff, right? A bit of front end, like Vue and Nuxt context, and the server, more of a Nitro thing. What's with the things that you want to use on both sides that are context-less? So internally, we thought like, yeah, maybe we have some kind of a shared folder for types, for utils, and you can even have that, like you can implement it yourself right now if you want to. But yeah, it's work in progress. There's a PR, it's pending, right? You can add it already, as I said. And yeah, the idea is, as I said, context-less code should go in there. Another thing that's pretty important, and that's something you could probably also go for yourself, but it's what also we want to do, we want to use import protection. So you cannot accidentally say, hey, that's my context-less code with my Pinia store. Like, nah, it's not context-less anymore. That don't work, so let's not do that. And there will be a big fat warning when you try to run, well, roll up eventually under the hood somewhere in a command that says like, hey, you can't import that. And of course, auto imports, for those people who really like auto imports, and probably a few of them here, we have types, auto imports, utils, and auto imports as well when it comes out. There is an issue and a PR, you can follow that for implementation, and that will be pretty lovely because when I worked with the new folder structure personally, I always felt like, yeah, I need some kind of shared folder, and giving a bit better DX to that is pretty nice. So no more questions where to put the things that go on both sides. We just have a third folder for that. Bless you. Next thing. Who of you knows Nuxt scripts? 1, 2, 3. Then it doesn't count. Oh, the whole table there doesn't count still. Okay, great. Let's have a look at Nuxt scripts because this is a gem that most of you missed out. So perfect. Let's click that on. Double click. Third-party scripts meets Nuxt DX. So what is this, besides this here being very lovely? The idea is third-party scripts, we all have them on our sites, tracking, analytics, marketing, and there's a lot of things that we can do to improve things. For example, here we can say, let's just load Google Analytics, but let's not load it straight away with the site. Let's load it later on, maybe trigger it manually. Then you might wonder, yeah, but the marketing team is killing us. We need this analytics, folks. Yeah, that's why there's a proxy. You feel the pain. There's a proxy, so whenever you still track something, whenever the script is loaded, that proxy, it's fine. We can just replay it. We can reuse it. Lovely. Great. And there are some performance improvements also for like YouTube, Google Maps, and so on, so on. There are some integrated components, so you don't have to load the whole iframe with it. That's pretty cool. And if we scroll further, yeah, also we have cookie consents, GDPR, I mean, we're in Germany. We all know that. DSGVO, as we said here, Datenschutzgrundverordnung. Can we all say that? 1, 2, 3. Datenschutzgrundverordnung. Perfect. That's all you need to know. People will leave you alone if you say that. And of course, there's some intro videos. Who's that guy? Never mind, there's also a sticker, of course, that's around. But what I want to show here is this part. I have the source code here, make it a little bit bigger. And of course, let's just type in pros, learn videos from watch the intro videos from pros. And this is, for example, using this script YouTube player. So it's coming from Nuxt scripts. It's basically a facade component that eventually will load the YouTube video, but it's super, super lightweight and smooth. So Nuxt scripts, really worth trying out. And I want to show you how it looks like in an application. So let me quickly open a little Vue.js DE demo application because, well, to be fair, it was not fully made here. It was mainly adapted for one of the upcoming videos. So you might recognize the application, either if you watch the stream or talk later on, or maybe if you've seen it in the React world, because it also exists. Nevertheless, here I just say, let's load plausible analytics, and I pass in a source. So this should just point to /v, just shows that JavaScript script JS, and I say, okay, here is where you send your API in the domain. I get that from the runtime config. I have that in use plausible and own composable that I use in different components, right? And I expose the proxy for like low-level integration. I have like a little plausible function that can be using that. And if we have like an SVG tool, let's say, then somewhere I just say, okay, const plausible, use plausible, easy, and here we go. There are some more complex things you can do. Let's say, oh, I want to load a script when I push a button after scrolling, right, with an intersection observer. They're all built-in things you can do. So whenever you feel like, okay, we don't need to load it straight away, then Nuxt script is coming to help. So a very, very useful thing. Also, there are lots of scripts in there. So I'll just show, like, we can say use script. We can add an own script, can come from anywhere. And the best part is we can even bundle it. During build time, we can say, hey, you know what? We have this random script somewhere, and what if the gist is updated, or like polyfill.io, right? Some hijacking of the domain, and now we have some, I don't know, Monero miner in our site. Yeah, I wish it would be a joke, but it wasn't, sadly. So you can even say, hey, during deployment, we bundle that. We don't rely on that site, and it's also hosted on our space, so also DSGVO conform or GDPR conform. And yeah, there are lots of other scripts there, right? We have all the classics. If you feel like you're missing a script there, please raise an issue. If it's popular, why not adding it? And you can also already implement it yourself and say, hey, this is how I did it. Let's do a PR. Yeah, and there are a few more things, so really worth checking it out. As I also mentioned, the components, the facade components. Really great work made by lots of people, actually. This was a collaboration with the Chrome Aurora team, right? And also with Julian, Harlan, Daniel, and other contributors are there. Really appreciate the work. So definitely worth, because there are not many sites that work without third parties. As we said, tracking is a different story. Google Maps and whatnot. So yeah. OK, the next gem. And one or the other might know that already. Get cache data. Who of you knows get cache data? Oh, less people. Oh, OK, a few. Great. So a few people watch my videos. I love it. No, but for real, let's say we fetch data, right? This is how we fetch data in Nuxt.js. We have this use fetch, right? We say we don't care about the types now. It's fine. We fetch a funny dad joke. And then we have some headers because the API needs it. So of course now, always when you fetch this data, it will be refetched. But on a client side, maybe you want to say, you know what? I just want to fetch it once, and then until the user refreshes the page, so until it's really just all client side. As long as that, let's keep the data like that. And we can easily do that by just pushing the right arrow and adding some more here code. Wonderful. Get cache data. We have to pass in the key that comes from use fetch as auto-generated. And there's some low-level code we don't have to dive into. We need the Nuxt app beforehand, right? Line 1, we have this use Nuxt app that's used now, finally. And we say, OK, let's check if it's in the payload data or in the static data and return it. And if it's not there, it will be fetched. And then it will be saved somewhere there magically, thanks to Nuxt. And we don't have to go through that again. Now we can even combine that. And now the code will be a bit longer by saying, OK, cool. I can fetch data. It will stay there forever until I refresh the page. But I want to expire. It should be expiring at some point. Because, yeah, like 5, 10, 30 seconds, great. But for an hour, or what did Abdurrahman said, like 78 days without refreshing the application, yeah, that sounds like stale data. So bear with me. It's a bit more. We'll go through that. First, we use this wonderful function here called transform, right? Anybody ever used a transform function and use fetch or use async data? Or just a few. So if you get data, you can just say, take the data and maybe remove some or add more as we do here. It's more uncommon to remove things, right? Like say, I get all these things, but I just need that one property. That can even help performance, but it's another story. So we just say we add a fetched add date here, because there is no date in the data. Let's just assume that for party API. Good. And now we have this get cache data as before. So over here, we have this data, right? And then, as the lovely comment I wrote back then says, if the data is not fetched, well, so if not data, if it's nullish, or in this, actually falsy, not even nullish, let's fetch for the first time. And we do that by just saying return. Let use fetch do the things. We don't have any data to return. It will be fetched. Great. And now we check the happy path. Hey, we have the data already, right? We have this like guarding if beforehand. And then we say if the data is too old, yeah, you know what? Then why not checking, OK, expiration date. We transform it back into a date. Then we say, OK, let's set the time. Lovely. We get the time. We check, is it expired or not? Here we say just 10 seconds. We can set it to any value we want. And of course, if it's expired, also return nothing, because then we just pretend there is no data. And otherwise, just return the data that's there. So that works. It seems like a lot of work, but it works fully on the client side without any script on the backend. But sometimes, well, actually mostly, you maybe want a bit more caching, also including the backend. So let's talk about another gem here, about caching and your backend for frontend with Nitro. So who here ever used the server folder? Yeah? OK, lots of people not using the server folder in Nuxt. That's very interesting. We'll do that real quick in a second. So the idea is Nitro, the server engine, right? The server folder there, powered by Nitro, same as the deployment and so on and so on. We can build full-stack applications with that, right? End-to-end type safety. It's great. You can even wrap it. Like you can wrap your existing backend and say, OK, the Nitro server just makes calls to existing backend. You might like, huh, Alex, why would we do that? I'm like, yeah, because you can cache things. They're like, OK, cool, caching is nice. So yeah, we have that, plus end-to-end type safety as mentioned. We can cache things. The best part in that as well, we can choose where we want to store things. On memory, yeah, let's not do that for big data. File system, easy but slow. Some kind of storage solution, like a KV store in Cloudflare, Vercel, Netlify, Blobs, whatsoever. MongoDB, the choice is yours, because everything that's happening in the UnJS ecosystem is always storage and runtime agnostic. So we're good. Let's have a look how that would work. So we have our VS Code here. And I will just very quickly open this wonderful test.ts that I wrote. And in here, we already have that. But let's just remove everything for now and remove this here. Let's create a new Nitro event handler, a little bit bigger. And in here, no copilot, we won't any generation. We can just say, OK, we have this event handler. Let's do something. Let's just return new date. Because why not? Not the event target, new date. So this should just return the current date. And if we now say, OK, you know what? Let's start our application and run it. I'll quickly paste the link in a second. Then we see the date that exists there. But of course, first, we should actually start the application. So let's just do pm dev here for our wonderful VGSDE 2024 demo application. We let it run through. And in the meantime, we start our app, open the link, and see that. Make it a little bigger. This is the current date right now. If I refresh it, it's the new date. Lovely. We see the seconds passing by, getting older and older. And let's change that, because that's enough reality check. OK, close the terminal here. So what we want to do instead is we can say, OK, we have this defined event handler, right? For some reason, I can't find that. Probably I could even do the whole window reload, and it will be there. Sometimes my VS Code is a bit weird. Apparently not. It's fine. We can use define cached event handler. And the idea behind that is we can say, you know what? Let's have this event handler cache the whole thing. And now we have another option saying we have an object here. And that object, we could, for example, say, let's disable SWR, but say, let's put in a max age of 10 seconds. So if we now go back here, we refresh that. Wonderful. The time is passing by, but nothing happens. We said we can't go back, but at least we can freeze time. And after 10 seconds, here we go, here we see it. It changed again. Nice. Of course, we can combine it with stale via validate, so we can say, give us the cache data, refresh it in the backend in the meantime, and the next request will get the new data, and so on and so on. And the best part of that is, now you might say, that's cool for requests, but What if I have user data? What if I don't want to cache the whole thing? What if I still want to execute it? You can do the same thing, but just with a function. So you can define a function, same parameters, very similar, and saying, OK, I also want to cache that. And once again, this is fully runtime agnostic, works on all runtimes, and also with all the storage solutions provided by Unstorage. So thanks to the UnJS ecosystem, that works pretty well. And there's one more thing. So what we can do is we can even generate the OpenAPI spec of our API routes. And that might seem a bit interesting because, OK, why you might want that? Well, maybe you want to use Swagger to share that with the people. Maybe you want to write some tests against it, and so on, so on. And it's very simple. We just have to turn on nitro.experimental.openAPI. So let's go to our Nuxt config here and do that. And say, you know what, here, Nitro, come on, wonderful, experimental, and eventually OpenAPI to true. Let's close this here. And probably complains because in this application, I already did it beforehand. So let's save this. And if we now say, OK, we go back to our app, here we go, we refresh that, it's a time, wonderful. And now we go to /_nitro / I think Swagger it is. Let's see. We have our Nitro server routes here based on OpenAPI. We see, oh, get API test, lovely, no parameters, it's fine response, how it looks like. We can document it. We can also comment, of course. We can improve things. There is scalar support as well. So documenting your API routes, never been easier, all auto-generated. And this is important to mention. This is not necessarily a Nuxt feature, right? Also, everything in terms of caching, you can have in your plain Nitro application as well. So you can always say, Express, I don't need Express. Let's just use Nitro, deploy it wherever we want, have all these benefits, and go with that. So time to ditch Express. Who's still using Express here? Yeah, we should talk. OK. All right. And there's another thing. Apparently, not many people, I learned today, not many people know about route rules. And that's fine. Who here knows about route rules? Not that many, yeah, as I felt like. Perfect. And the idea is, with route rules, you can say, for specific paths in your Nuxt application, you can do certain things. Disabling SSR, caching as well. Let's see a few things. Yeah, rendering modes, right? Like SSR say, hey, this should be pre-rendered. It's great. Caching. Redirects, also very important. Define headers, proxy requests. And you can even set up custom rules if you have like a super crazy use case, or some modules might also do that, maybe your own modules as well. You can say, OK, fine, let's set up a route rule. If that applies to path, let's do things with that. So let's check our application again, because there is something I didn't tell you, right? I set here for the plausible part, I set like /v/js/script.js. And you might wonder, like, this doesn't look like a path. What is this v part, right? The answer is, we check the Nuxt config, and maybe one of you has spotted already. We have this route rules part here, the proxy for plausible, to say, OK, I proxy the script in the API event straight to my own plausible instance to make sure that the app blockers don't block it away. So yeah, I track you if you open that application that runs on localhost only. And the best part is that we can not only do that, but we can also see that. So we have that application, and I hope I can quickly pull up my plausible situation. But first, let's go back here. Just go to localhost 3000, right? And there we go. This is the application, by the way, that I only converted from a Next.js application, but this is a topic for the future, not for now. And if we now check what's happening here, we see in the dev tools, real quick, we can check for script.js, script typing the right way here. We have use script, that's wonderful. But there should also be script.js, I think, or /v. Let's see that. V. No, it's not there. Let's have a double check why that, because we set the proxy. Oh, we use plausible. Wonderful. Save that here. And let's go to that page here, for example. Let's see if it loads. Script.js, there we go. And also an event, because it's only loaded if the composable is executed. So on the starting page, not ideal for tracking, to be fair, but I only implemented it here to track like the little upload SVG button or whatsoever, as it was in the original application. Only then the script is loaded, and that's fine. And of course, things are queued up, so that's great. And now I want to give you a very intimate view into my wonderful plausible setup. So I have this domain set to example.com, and you see there's one page view, and it just happened right now in the SVG to PNG page. So it works apparently. Very simple to set up. You can self-host that or use it on plausible.com or any other analytics, and it's pretty straightforward. So route rules can help with a lot of things, especially, well, not only hiding scripts, but also, as I said before, disabling SSR, caching as well. If you say, hey, I don't only have an API that I want to cache, but also maybe a Nuxt page that's server rendered. Let's just cache the page. So that's also an option. And eventually, let's quickly go back to the slides, because there's one more thing I want to showcase with the application, and it's OG image generation. OG image is really important if you share something on your favorite messenger with your moms, like, hey, look, this is the application I built. Should be like a nice image popping up, right? A title. I was like, hey, what's this localhost 3000? Anyway, you got me. So OG image generation, extremely important. And I don't know, for example, I write blog posts every, I don't know, once a year or so, I feel like. And I don't want to set up a social image for that, or like an OG image. So why not generating that based on a blog title, based on the name of its little background image, and so on and so on. Of course, you can do that. It's pretty straightforward. It's once again a module made by Harlan, so check out nuxtseo.com in general. It's under the umbrella there. You can generate OG images on the fly or pre-render them. It's all based on view components, so you don't have to think like, oh, how to describe it. Just write a view component, and we can even preview it in DevTools. Screenshots are also possible. So let's see how it look like in my, let's say, transferred application. As we mentioned before, there are the dev tools. Let's open them. Yeah, hub database not found because it's not using Nuxt Hub. We have this wonderful OG image tab here, and here we see this looks like that. SVG to PNG, the only simple SVG converter. Didn't write it at all, just copied over from the other application, which is now a Nuxt application. So let's have a look how that looks like actually internally. So let's go to the SVG to PNG route here, also using a wonderful feature called route groups, also a gem, but that's on the side note. Here you have define OG image component general, SVG, PNG, and so on and so on. So we just run that, and it will generate the OG image for it. And you might think, okay, what's this general? Let's have a look. It's in app components OG image, general view, and here it's pretty simple, some props and just some styles. It can also be CSS classes, table is also supported, so no worries. But this was also, once again, from the wonderful React application that exists called QuickPick. It's also linked in the GitHub as well. This is a whole fork anyway. It works, and the best part is, if we now go back to DevTools and say like, hey, look, that's a great image. Nice, maybe zoom a little bit out for that. And we have some options here, right? We have app templates. There are some templates. We can say, you know what? Can I just use the Pergol template here? Can I just say like, hey, I want to use this? Yeah, sure, you can. You can just copy paste the code. You can just say, hey, yeah, let's give the source code that's not fully bundled with, right? It exists there, and say I replace that and refresh the whole page, for example, and it's there. And to prove you it's really there, let's just open that in a new tab, and you see that I can actually touch it here, right? It's there. It is deployed. It's a real image. So we can do that. We can of course go through others. We have a lot of options. Of course, there's documentation in there and also debugging if some things might not work because of how things are rendered. But all in all, it's a really pleasant experience. We can also check how it looks on Twitter, as we have here, and Slack, and have the sidebars and like, hey, okay, what's that rendered with, and so on, so on. So a lot of good things. And at least for your own portfolio, you might want to have that because it looks neat. And the last thing here is more of a bonus because we're already over at 8 gems, so we have like a 9th gem just for you out there, right? Nuxt UI. Whoever used Nuxt UI? Okay. Also just a few people, but it's really worth it because, well, it's a component library for Nuxt. In the future, also for Vue, we can also make it work for you now, but it's a bit trickier. There will be a version 3 rewrite with Radix Vue under the hood. Yay. It's fully themable, stylable. It's like you bring your own things. It's based on Tailwind and Radix Vue in this case. And there's also a pro version with more built-in components. So let's just have a tiny glimpse on it, how it looks like. And I mean, all the Nuxt pages are beautiful, right? This is a dark blue, by the way, so don't let you fool you by the colors here. Actually, maybe you what? I put on light mode now. Yeah, I'm sorry, but here we go. That looks, it's a bit more clear now, and I hope nobody on the live stream has burning eyes right now. So you can get all the components there for free. It's out there. It's open source as well. And as just mentioned, there's also a pro version. And if you say like, hey, okay, I don't know, I want a Figma kit or something, I asked Sebastian, right? Artinux has like, hey, I'm at Vue.js, DE. There is a little coupon code. So if you want to, you can scan the QR code, go there. You can take it from the slides later on. That's the coupon code for 20% off everything. So I was like, hey, I don't want to come with empty hands, right? This seems a bit unfair. Nevertheless, talking about empty hands, this was a tiny selection of things that apparently lots of you didn't know about, so I kind of did my job. But you might be ready for more, so please follow along. I have a YouTube channel, as mentioned earlier, almost at 10K subscribers in almost a year, a little bit of a year, more than a year that I'm doing it now. So it'd be really nice if you could leave a subscribe, like, click the bell, you know all that shit, right? So, and of course, we also have a wonderful podcast, the Deja Vu podcast, where we do weekly episodes with Michael Thiessen from the community. So if you feel like, please follow along. And yeah, you will see amazing content. Before I say goodbye, thanks a lot to my sponsors. One of them is also in the room over here, at least, for sponsoring me so I can have time for open source and content creation, all that. It's really appreciated. And yeah, thank you. These were the 8, no more 9 Nuxt gems, and I hope you will enjoy using them. Thanks, everybody. All right. Okay, and apparently, let's quickly switch. We still have feedback, very important, and we have the Vue panel live Q&A. You can leave some questions at Blido. We have a little maintainer library off around tomorrow, right after lunch, so definitely don't miss that out. Of course, you can also do it throughout the time, that's fine. So let me quickly bring on the final and closing slides here. And it is pretty straightforward because we are almost done here for today. So today, that was kind of it, right? There's one more thing, right? Food and drinks. You're all hopefully not too sleepy. It's not that late, actually. It's, well, not even 6. So in 15 minutes, a little bit of after party, food trucks, some good food. We also have some PowerPoint karaoke, as was said before. So everybody who's interested in that, let's go for that. Let's have some chill time here. Let's mingle a little bit, get to know each other even better, like we did throughout the day. And tomorrow starts again, as it did today, at 9 sharp, the first talk here. So better be early to get the good spots in the first rows as well, exactly. And I hope you enjoy the evening. Don't forget, as I said, like just mingle with everybody, have a good time. And thank you for the very first day of the Vue.js Conf 2024. Thanks, everybody.